Have you ever wondered what your life might look like when you reach its twilight? Not just what you achieved, but what remains. Today, are we going to hear two answers to that same question? Two voices, two lives, two very different moments in time. And yet, both of them use almost the same words, because this song is not what you think. One voice belongs to a tormented soul trapped in a destructive spiral. The other belongs to a man who has lived more days than he can count and quietly watches the flame of his life begin to fade. Two lives, one song, both asking the same question, and both discovering that pain can sound very different depending on when you sing it. I'm Darius, and this is the story of two faces of the same coin of the sound heart. When Trent Reznor wrote Heart, he wasn't necessarily telling a literal autobiography, but he was opening the door to thoughts many people experience and rarely admit. The story begins with a disturbing question. Is it still possible to feel something? The protagonist is so emotionally numb that sensation seems to return only through something extreme. Pain. Physical pain. Because sometimes pain is the only thing strong enough to break through emptiness. And then another path appears. A needle. Desperate attempt to feel something again, even if the feeling lasts only a second. But the body grows tired. The mind grows tired. And repetition slowly becomes a prison. The search for sensation stops bringing relief. And instead, it awakens something far more dangerous. Memory. And memory can hit harder than any drug. Suddenly, the protagonist begins to think about people who are no longer there. Not necessarily people who died, but people who left. Friends, family, those who slowly walked away, unable to watch someone they loved destroy himself. And the most painful part is this. He knows it. He understands exactly what happened. And when he looks at his life, what he sees is not a kingdom, not a triumph, just an empire of nothing. And yet, something unexpected appears. What if there was still time? What if there was still a second chance? The protagonist is young, but he cannot see his youth. Blinded by addiction, bad decisions, and regret, the future looks like a closed door. And yet, deep inside, something refuses to die. A quiet desire, a fragile hope, a voice that whispers, maybe it's not too late. It is not certainty. It is not redemption, but it is something powerful enough to keep breathing. Because even a broken heart can still dream of starting again. But something extraordinary happens when those same words are sung by someone else. What happens when the person telling the story has actually lived it? Now the voice belongs to Johnny Cash, a man near the end of his life. And when he begins to sing, you hear it immediately. A tired voice. Not weak, but heavy. Heavy with decades of memories. With victories and losses. With everything a human life can contain. At that point in life, something changes. New emotions become rare. Pain becomes familiar. And time moves differently. Suddenly, the words that once described a self-destructive spiral become something else entirely. Reflection. Because every time he closes his eyes, memories appear. Places he once lived. People he once loved. Moments that shaped who he became. Some of those faces are gone forever. Others simply fade away with time. And when he looks back, everything seems to dissolve in the same direction, like dust, an empire of dust. Then comes another symbol, a crown of thorns, a strange image for a man who spent his life on a stage. Because fame has two sides, the glory of being admired and the quiet burden that comes with it. People see the legend, the icon, the hero standing under the spotlight, but the person inside that image often feels much smaller, almost like a stranger inside his own story. And when memories arrive, they do not arrive neatly. They come in fragments, broken scenes, and small moments scattered across time. Some of them carry regret, moments he wishes had unfolded differently. But time doesn't move backward, and slowly he understands something inevitable. Time covers everything, even pain, even love, even regret. And when you look far enough into the past, everything begins to turn into dust. Finally, the old man reaches a quiet realization. Life is never simple. It is a long road of rises and falls, of faces that appear and disappear again, of victories and once felt enormous, but now seem strangely small, because life has a strange rule. No matter what we build, something new will eventually replace it. Dust you are, and dust you shall return. And yet, despite all of this, something unexpected remains. If he had the chance to live again, he might choose the same road, not because it was perfect, but because it was his. Two stories, two voices, almost the same words, and yet they carry completely different meanings. The first voice belongs to someone watching his life burn too fast. The second belongs to someone watching the final embers of that fire. One desperately hopes for a second chance, the other quietly accepts the life he already lived. One stands at the beginning of the storm, the other sits at the end of the road, and somewhere between those two moments, all of us exist. Because every decision we make leaves a mark. Some marks become regrets, others become lessons, and slowly those moments begin to stack on top of each other, forming the story we call life. Sometimes that weight feels unbearable, but second chances are not as rare as we think. Sometimes the young man, lost in darkness, can still become the older one, who finally learns to live with his scars, to accept the past, and to hold life gently, with both its sweetness and its bitterness. So I would like to ask you something. Which version speaks more to you? The one by Nine Inch Nails or the one sung by Johnny Cash? Tell me in the comments. I would really like to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoy stories like this, the human side behind songs, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. See you in the next story, and God bless you all.
I remember I was doing a session with a friend of mine, and this video shows up in the mail. And it was the beginning of the day, and the video's there, and I said, oh, let's put this in and see what it is. And what I wasn't prepared for was what I saw, and it really then wasn't my song anymore, you know. And really tears welling up, kind of everyone silence at the end of the video, and like a lot of wow.